Hi, I'm Mary Caton. I'm a sports writer with the Windsor Star. Here today with me is Russ Hansen, a photojournalist who has recently relocated to Windsor and has a new book out about the Montreal Expos where all the artwork is by Russ. So Russ, I understand the book releases tomorrow officially?
The book releases tomorrow. They're kind of lining it up with this weekend for the first time since 2004. There's going to be baseball games at the Olympic Stadium in Montreal this week.
Now, tell us a little bit about your involvement. First, how did you get involved with the Expos?
I lived in London, Ontario from grades 7 to 9. And when I was between grades 7 and 8, I had a teacher take us to Tiger Stadium. But before that, when I was a kid from age 4 to 8, I lived in Arlington, Virginia, so I used to see the Senators play when Canadian kids were learning to skate and play hockey. There were no rinks when I was a child in Virginia. So that's where my love affair with baseball started. Well, my best friend from grades 7 to 9 in London moved to Montreal in January of '74. His dad worked with CN, so I used to catch the train for $6.70 to Montreal and started going to games at the Forum and Jerry Park, and then ultimately the first game at the Olympic Stadium, as well as the first Blue Jay game ever.
Wow. And then obviously you had an interest in photography, and how did you get wrapped up with them and taking photos of the players?
Well, what happened before the memorabilia craze that everybody knows of and eBay and everything, I was just a fan that would go down to games, and I'd borrowed my cousin's camera when I was studying architecture in Ottawa, took the pictures. Next time down, I said, could I get these on? And the guy said, these are great, could we have these? I said, sure, no problem. And in 1978, Gary Carter's oldest daughter, Christy, was born in Fullerton, California in June of '78. He asked me to come down on Family Day to do personal photography for he and his wife, got me a press pass, and he didn't know I lived 180 miles from Montreal, so I just said, sure, no problem.
Yeah.
And my life has been blessed ever since.
Wow. And then you went on to take pictures of a lot of the players, right? Tell us about some of the other photos you took.
Well, I went to spring training 35 years ago this year in Daytona Beach, Florida. Did a lot of photography there, and there was 9 players said, would you do personal photo albums for us? I was like their personal paparazzi. And then all the friendships and relationships have just blossomed and bloomed and continue to grow to this day. And now a lot of the friends are now either coaches, managers, or general managers in baseball, and they're all my friends that are on my phone that I can call them at any time.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Now tell me, what are some of your personal favorites, the photos they've picked for this book?
I'd have to say the most favorite is the panoramic shot I did of the Olympic Stadium in Montreal during the 1982 All-Star Game.
Yeah.
That is probably because it covers 2 pages of the book.
That's amazing.
But what's neat is a lot of the other photographs, to me personally, every photograph has got a story behind it. And that's the memories that nobody can take away.
Well, and that's something I want to talk about too. They're not just traditional action baseball shots. That you captured some really interesting cameo and candid shots of these players and their families.
And their families in their homes, in their day-to-day life. And I think there was a movie that came out in the last year called The Secret Life of Walter Mitty, which was the James Thurber book. Well, this was my fantasy world that I was living. And it's interesting because Gary Carter's oldest daughter, Christy, who I mentioned earlier, her oldest child has autism. And this past December, she went to a school in Tampa where she did training for 2 weeks to get a service dog for her son who's about 8. And I had photographed a picture of Gary with a golden retriever at his home in 1978.
Wow.
And when I, through social media, passed that photograph on, they were blown away because this little boy's got a golden retriever. So those are the special little...
Absolutely. Yep. And did you not tell me you have some picture of Larry Parish with a cow?
Yeah, Larry Parish milking and Woody Fryman milking a cow on Family Day in there. And Larry's going to be managing the Toledo Mud Hens again this year for, I think, his 3rd stint there. But back 20 years ago, I was living in Belleville, Ontario, and I used to meet Larry at 7 a.m. up in Ottawa to play the links. We'd play golf, go to Harvey's, and then ultimately go to the ballpark, and then go out to the country western bars at night. So it was just a full circle kind of day.
Now, the book releases tomorrow. Will it be available here in any stores locally?
Absolutely. In fact, I just saw online this morning that Chapters has got, I think, about 25 copies in here. And I believe Indigo has got some in Tecumseh, and even Kohl's has got the book.
Okay.
And the pre-sales have been phenomenal for this book.
Well, I think, and you can speak to this too because you're more familiar with this team than even we are, but there was always a special place for the Montreal Expos in the hearts of baseball fans, I think, here in Canada, even separate from the Blue Jays.
Well, absolutely. 1969 was their inaugural season in Canada, and the book even, shows how they almost didn't become a team in Canada. But when the Blue Jays came in 1977, we in Southern California were then only allowed to watch 15 Expo games a year. The rest were Blue Jays, and that's part of what's in the book of the demise of the Expos.
Yeah, yeah. And some of the players, too, I think that some of the ones we've talked about, Larry Parish, Gary Carter, Andre Dawson, I mean, these were big names in baseball back then and really icons of the game at that time.
Absolutely. Steve Rogers, Tim Raines. I mean, right now we've got, Gary Carter and Andre Dawson are Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing is they were my two closest friends that I was doing the photography for, to think they became Hall of Famers. And 4 years ago, when Andre went in the Hall of Fame, I was in the personal family section sitting right behind his wife. And the night before, there I am inside the Hall of Fame. There's Al Kaline, there's Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Tom Seaver, Whitey Ford. I had died and gone to heaven.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. Would you ever do something like this again, or do you still have time enough to do this kind of photography?
Oh, I'd love to help the Windsor Star out doing this. This is my passion. This is my joy. It's not work.
Yeah.
And when you find your passion, sometimes you need to follow it. And that's where I want to ultimately, and I'm working on doing some things to help raise dollars for the Canadian Baseball Hall of Fame, who wants to build a new building. And if I can leave my mark here in baseball in Canada, that's how I want to give back to the joy that I've had come to me.
That's awesome. Well, thank you very much for joining us here today. I really appreciate it, and good luck with the book.
Thank you, Mary.